Man, what is up? What is the deal, everybody? You know who it is. It's Coach DP, and I got a guest today. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
I go by Coach too.
Absolutely.
I'm Coach too. Glen Forbes, the second from Fort Worth, Texas, West Side.
So y'all know, man, when I bring people on, it's a bunch of different things, but I got to bring the athletes on. I got to bring the coaches on, man. Um, I'm gonna ask you from your point of view, if you had to introduce Glen Forbes to a group of strangers, how would you introduce yourself? How would you present yourself? You used to do um, what was that company? I mean you should be here. What was the name of it though?
World Ventures.
World Ventures. And I know you had to speak, you had to do speaking engagements. When you had to introduce yourself in those type of situations, to get people to understand you, know you, how would you go about that?
Well, first of all, I tell them my name is Glen Forbes the second. Glen Forbes is my daddy, and he is that'd be the first thing. But now, I mean, I always say just same thing where I'm from, the area I grew up in, my background. Um, which happened to be obviously being an athlete, teamwork. 'Cause that's what the in company incorporated in anything you do is definitely teamwork. So that's basically it. I mean, as far as me introducing myself, I mean, I didn't give too much unless they really asked me questions. But just right at the bottom, just let them know who I was, where I'm from, and why I was there in the building.
Speaking of how you grew up and you grew up as an athlete, talk to me about that, man. Childhood. They start from little Glenn. How was life growing up?
Shoot, life growing up was cool. Here again from Fort Worth. Grew up on the southwest side till about second grade, and we moved to the west side. And no, not Lake Como, because for whatever reason, when you from Fort Worth and you say west side, maybe it's because of the pigmentation. Everybody, oh, you from Como? No, I did not grow up in the hood. I grew up in a nice community south of Como, probably about 2-3 minutes down Bryan Urban, Lower West Side, where black folk we live good too, right? You ain't got to just be in the hood. But shout out to my people out in Como. I had a good child. That was back when the YMCA was cranking, rec leagues was cranking. Parents came out to support. The gyms were packed for 8 and under, 10 and under, 12 and under. So a lot of support. And even growing up, I look at like now the coaches, right? Like it's like, man, they really, took time on weekends, practices to be away from their families. And it's kind of because I'm the type now. Once my season over during the year, I that summer stuff I don't. I'm done, right? But no, it was. I enjoyed my childhood playing around the city with different people from different areas, different schools. So I was able to adapt in any situation, whether it be around Fort Worth, Dallas. Yeah, I had a dope childhood.
Man, you kind of jumped into my next question, and I like that you said that. But I was gonna say one thing. What was your primary sport that you liked playing growing up?
Primary was basketball, but I played everything. I think we grew up. I mean, soccer, football,
Baseball.
flag football. I
Yeah.
couldn't. My parents wouldn't let me play tackle, even though a lot of my partners did, and I was so athletic. Coaches would try and get man. He won't. My mom, they were like, he ain't playing tackle. Baseball. But my first love was always basketball.
Man, I was gonna say, and the people that don't know, and I'm gonna get into it a little bit later. He was one of the top talents you would say in basketball. But you just said I grew up good. I ain't grew up in the hood. I grew up had a fun childhood. How was you able to? And you tipped on it a while ago. But how was you able to compete with people who they didn't have an easy childhood, and that basketball was their only outlet, or whatever sport they was in was their only outlet, and they had to run up against somebody who, in their mind, they would say has had it easy.
I didn't even hear about that until I really. Now that you say that, until I got to college. Growing up, I didn't really. I had friends of mine, other than my family. The rest of my family grew up basically in the hoods of Fort Worth, whether it was South Side, North Side, Highland Hills. I grew up nice, but when you that young, you don't really. I don't think that really took effect that, oh, I'm living like this, they living like this. I mean, there may be been some animosity in some point, but at the end of the day, it was about when that ball go up, ain't no difference. We on the same court. So, there may have been some animosity at a young age, which I didn't really see much of it. Wasn't until I got to college that one of my teammates, excuse me, at the time said, hey, you got this, you got that, you got, your parents. My mom unfortunately passed away when I was 14, but they saw how I lived, and they were like, man, you live this way? Man, I came from this, man, I need this more than you. And I'm like, says who? Just because we come from different avenues or different, standard of living, that don't mean you better than me, don't mean I'm better than you. And to be honest, you would think there were some people when they say, this is all I have, now I'm outworking you.
And that's what I was saying. That's what I meant right there, because they could have came from a background where you say, okay, it's a harder background, but it seemed like your motivation, even at a younger age, was a little bit more because your skill set, it don't just come from some people's skill set. Athleticism is natural, but skill set is practiced. Right. So that means you was putting in more work even than the people that was supposedly supposed to be hungrier than you. Correct. Where did that come from?
Well, my dad from the hood. My mama from the hood. My dad grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, where on the same street as Huey P. Newton. When they set up shop with the Black Panthers in New Haven for a while, I remember him telling me he was a little boy, up in the East Coast following and watching the Black Panther movement. And, one thing my dad used to tell me, or had told me one time, I remember he was like, yo, I'm from the hood. You not. Right? And I'm cool with that. Like, I never, there were probably a few years where, you kind of feel a little, like these kids today, they may feel a little certain type of way because, some kids who are from that, they put that pressure on and say, oh, you ain't this, you ain't that, because you come from this. Right. And I had to learn to accept that and be like, okay, cool. I appreciate it. That's like a compliment to me.
Right.
But I think because, my dad, my grandfather, it's funny, I remember being with my grandma watching the Kevin Hart special. My grandfather was on drugs. He was that stepfather. Remember the thing he said, don't come across the steps, because he they had a good relationship. But my grandfather was in the streets. My grandfather was like, so the background of my parents, even though they were saying, hey, we did it better for y'all, they instilled that drive in us when we were younger. It wasn't given to us, right? So that's where I got it from.
So you would say, over anything, it wasn't just your natural athleticism, but mom and pops played the biggest role.
Correct.
And you won. So did they kind of steer you towards basketball, or did you kind of like, because like you said, they put us in a bunch of different sports. Dude, I think we was playing T-ball or soccer, all that. We was playing everything. Did they kind of like, okay, I'm gonna sit back and wait to see what he gravitates towards, or did they have an end game of, this is what I really want you doing? Nothing else. I don't feel like this is safe.
I can't speak for them, but I will say I think it was gravitation. It was gravitated towards basketball merely because my uncle Curtis, he was a player at Kirkpatrick back when it was only 4 high school. What was it? Kirkpatrick, Dunbar, Como, and I Am Terrell. He was a big player at Kirkpatrick. My dad played, so growing up, I watched and saw pictures of my dad playing in leagues, pictures of him playing in school. Of course, we grew up in the Jordan era. And I think basketball just came more naturally to me. I mean, I got videotapes of me 3-4 years old shooting, with the little balls we used to get shooting on the bigger goals. So I think my cousins played. We used to always go to the games here in the area. So I think basketball, basically, I gravitated towards that just because of my surroundings and the people around me.
Me knowing you, I got to ask this question because you just said you grew up in the Jordan era. You had to pick.
Man, don't do that.
Jordan or Iverson?
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to say something else. Here's the deal. Jordan is the GOAT, but I think Iverson had more of an influence on me. And I think he's starting to get his credit now.
I'm noticing that too. Credit.
I mean, don't get it twisted. I mean, Jordan was 6'6", growing up being 6'1". Some days I wanted to, or there were days, and I did do well at, I want to do the fadeaway like Mike. Right, I want to go through the air, switch from the right to the left, like Mike. I want to be able to, have that killer instinct like Mike. Now, when AI came in to the league, it just made it seem more realistic because this guy was my size. Yes. He was 6 foot, 6'1", with the arm sleeve, with the braids, with, just the unapologetic demeanor of, man, I'm finna go out here and ball. Yes, I'm only 6 foot. I don't care if you 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", or if you the guard guarding me. Crossovers. All this. I mean, by the time I got to about high school, maybe 8th grade, I really I say 7 because I remember I had the Allen Iverson 7th grade. I really patented kind of both. I wanted to do Iverson's crossover,
But Jordan's fade
but I
away.
wanted to have Jordan's fade away, so it was a mixture of both. But if I had to say, me personally, at that age, it was Iverson who Jordan was the GOAT. But when Iverson came in, it just seemed more realistic to mimic or follow his game because he was the same size as me.
How much of impact do you think AI had on just in general? Because man, when I think back, he was the one, like you said, it was unapologetically him because he was coming with baggy clothes, the big beaters, and then now I think about it in high school and junior high. That's where things started kind of turning to. We was all wearing baggy clothes, and I want to say that I think he was probably the one that started a lot of people even dressing like that, or at least from our culture and our standpoint.
Especially in basketball, NBA basketball, Jordan, Magic, early Shaq, Akeem, Penny, like they wasn't dressing like that until AI came in, or at least we weren't until AI came in. But yeah, I mean that his effect was a big one. Was a big one on me when AI came in. I mean, we weren't, whether it was the arm sleeve. I think that was the first one. Now you see everybody wearing it. I remember I had 2 cut up socks
Man.
on my arm trying to, I had the little, I could show you some of my college pictures. I had the little finger joint that he wore. Ain't nothing wrong with my
he
finger.
had that.
But I put it on. I had the answer armband. And, don't get it twisted. It was some dudes. It was a lot of dudes in the city and people I play in tournament. They tried to do the same arm sleeve, but I'm like, yeah, but you can't play though.
And that's what I mean. So that goes back. I remember when we was younger, like, yeah, you were around a certain crowd, but dude, you played everybody we played. Like, it wasn't a school that you avoided. You did you did summer league. Like, you was at halls. You was over here in all these different tournaments. So any kind of competition that I would say somebody that had less, you played against that exact same competition. So I wouldn't say that anybody would be like, well, he was more privileged than everybody else, or he went to this, and I'm gonna get to this in a second. He went to this school, so he probably wouldn't have made it as far if he had to go to these schools a certain amount of time. What do you say to that? Matter of fact, because a lot of people will say, man, this dude went to Arlington Heights, or he was over here with these people. If he came to a school, a heavy talented school, he wouldn't have been who everybody know you for as in high school.
Well, I mean, like you said, prior to, I played against everybody, and at the time, I didn't know where I was going at the time. But growing up, I was one of the top players in the area, and like I said, I didn't care where you came from. When we stepped on this court, I'm gonna let you know who I am, and it made me feel even better that if you feel like I'm privileged and I'm still giving you buckets on this court, then what does that say about you? We can talk about privilege all day as far as, we can even go to shoes. I didn't get my first pair of Jordans or Allen Iversons to hoop in until I was 12 because my dad instilled in me, I don't care who name was on your sneaker. I want to make sure your feet are protected, your ankles are protected. So while everybody else got the Jason Kidds, the Sean Kemps, the Jordans, whatever was going, shoot, I'm in some Converse with the React juice.
Man, what? I think my mom and them was like getting me Adidas, just anything that was gonna protect my ankles.
Right.
Man, so when you think, what was the biggest impact? We just heard you said, unfortunately, your mom passed when you was 14. You think that was the biggest impact you had, or there was at any point in time where you was like, man, I probably don't even want to play basketball no more. I don't want to do this no more.
No, it was not really, because that was I knew that's what I did, like that was my outlet.
So tell them tell them the story of,
here we go.
You wanted to, as a freshman. See, this is where a lot of people would say, see, we wouldn't have had this opportunity in school. Your moms or the pops, and they wanted you to play varsity. And I think your mom, I think because Cam, I think she made a scene to make sure you got on varsity your freshman year.
Nah, she didn't make. So what happened was, coming out 8th grade year, I didn't go to a feeder middle school.
Right.
So like, everybody, you go to a certain school here, that feeds into that high school. Everybody know, okay, he going here, she's going here. I went to Applied Learning Academy, which is public school, just year round. We didn't have sports, so here again back then it was all rec league, AAU, BCI. But when I played in the rec leagues, I remember my 8th grade year, people were wondering where is he going because I was that standout athlete. And my brother my mom and my brother went to Southwest, so but my dad was like, "You're not going to Southwest."
I was just finna say, why ain't go to Southwest?
Because
a lot of people
they
went to
had no
Southwest.
structure. Southwest was run and gun, and now that I'm older, even when I was in school, I realized it. You know, it was all run and gun. They played no defense.
Yeah.
Shooting a lot of threes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You on Southwest head.
Yeah, I never cared for South. And no, but here's the deal though, because they cut. I'm gonna be real. So we gonna do this. I know this is local. This ain't like no, you feel me? But it's cool because we gonna blow. What happened was, Coach Gray. I'll say that. Coach Gray is out. They cut my brother his junior year, sophomore year. And I remember going to the game, and I ain't gonna say the name of the person they put over or players, but they was trash. Now I'm not saying my brother was the best.
Right.
He was better than them.
Right.
But politics play a part in it too. So I remember thinking, number one, my dad was like, "You're not going there. They have no discipline. They just run and gun." And I wanted to go because I knew everybody, right? That was the only reason why I wanted to go initially. It's because I knew everybody. It had nothing to do with basketball. It was just, I know such because I grew up in that rec center and all that. But then as I got older and I was watching those teams, and then my dad told me, I was like, okay, that makes sense. And he was like, well, you going to Arlington Heights. And I'm like, what the heck is that?
I was just finna say, what made you choose Arlington Heights?
I didn't choose nothing. I didn't know. We had moved from the Southwest side when I was like in 2nd grade,
right,
to the Lower West side,
right.
And my brother stayed in that system because he was already at Wedgewood, moving in the Southwest. But I had no clue. I didn't even know what the heck Heights. I had never heard of Heights.
Yeah.
We would always go watch, Southwest, Dunbar, Poly. Like we would go to those games. I'd never been to an Arlington Heights game until my 8th grade year when I went. But anywho, so I ended up going to Heights, and that was the best decision I could have made because I was taught structure and offense. I was taught fundamentals, which played a big part in me elevating to the player I became. But I'll be honest, if I would have went to like a Southwest system, I still would have been good.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm thinking about you and Brent Hackett on the same team.
Yeah, I mean, I still would have been good, but I wouldn't have been as polished and college ready as I would. And even with that, like, I mean, we've talked about it before, even online, and people have chimed in. Looking at it now, me and Brent would have been a dope backcourt. But I always tell people we would have been a dope backcourt if he would have came to Heights, because had he came to Heights, he would have had more structure, fundamental, know how to play the game. Gray didn't teach that. And yeah, they had a lot of success because they had a lot of athletes. They had a lot of talented players. But there were times, you look at certain teams, like even with my team that I had, I'm like, we shouldn't have beat them. But we did based on the skills we were taught from our coach, Troy Bell. So some would make that assessment, if he would have went to Southwest. And I'm like, nah, I think it would have been a lot colder if he would have came to Heights. You know what I'm saying? So and every time I played against Southwest, I just wanted every time. And every time I would look at Coach, didn't like Coach Gray. I mean, I don't say still don't like him to today. It's 20 years removed. But that was my fuel. It was like, you cut my brother and you did. It was every time we played. And I remember one time, no cap, after the game, Coach Gray came to me. I think it was like after my sophomore year, one of the games we had beat him. He's like, man, I sure wish you would have came over here.
I sure wish you would have cut my brother.
Right. In my head, I'm like, yeah, but if you would have yeah, I'm like, whatever. But
would you say you would have you were the leader on your team? Because sometimes you can have a Steph Curry, but Draymond Green's the leader in the locker room. Would you say you were the leader in your locker room?
No, I was not. And to go back to what you were saying, I'm sorry because we kind of got off. So what happened was when I got to Heights, I knew I wasn't gonna play freshman. Like I already knew that. I played in the summer league with the JV, practiced with the varsity over the summer, and so I knew I wasn't playing freshman. But all my friends who I had befriended at the school were on JV. So it's funny, right before practices started, my teammates was like, hey man, you playing varsity. And the thing was, and like I said in the article, I just got some new Allen Iversons. And I wanted to wear my Allen Iversons during the season. Well, on varsity, you have team shoes, right? So we had team shoes, and at the time we had some Converse.
Oh yeah, we had. I remember having the same.
Man, I
team
ain't wearing no
shoes.
dang Converse. I want to wear my, and I don't know how I got through the coach bear, but I was like, man, I want to wear my Iverson. And he, to this day, he said I'd be able to wear them. And I remember the first day of practices, because varsity practice before JV, I left the school and went to my partner's house who played on JV, basically hiding, because I was like, no, I don't want to play varsity. I want to play JV. But known to me, later on it came to find out my mom basically told him, go get him. He playing varsity. Don't let him. And so next thing I know, I'm over at my partner's house on JV. Like he had a gorilla. We down there shooting. And then one of the varsity players drove over there.
And got you.
And came and said, let's go.
Dang.
I'm like, what? Shout out to Lil Frog. Everybody in the city know Lil Frog, Ray Brooks. He came and got me and said, yeah, Coach Bell told me to come get you. Let's go. And I want to say I called my dad. He's like, yeah, you need to go up to that gym right now. I couldn't do nothing. So, but after that, everything was, and I'm glad I did it after that. But no, I was not the leader. I was the baby of the bunch. I had a great leader and what I feel one of the top point guards to come out the city, and James Mitchell. My boy Jamal Holman, who was our center at the time, senior. So they took me under their wing, and I probably didn't become the quote-unquote leader until maybe sophomore, junior year.
It's crazy how it don't take nothing for stories to get. I don't know where I got it from. I don't know if I got it from my granny, if I got it from people in our class. They was like, Glenny was coming in for the freshman team, but Moms was like not having it. Like she wanted you to play varsity. She didn't want you to have the experience immediately.
Yeah, I don't think that I wasn't playing no way. I wasn't playing freshman at all.
Right.
It wasn't even gonna be. That wasn't even a thought in the coach's mind. I think it was more so. I knew it was either gonna be JV or varsity, but nah, freshman, that wasn't even a thought.
So let me ask you this: what would you say would be the biggest quality that you had from playing basketball? And you said you weren't the leader, but at the end of the day, everybody did look up to you, though, look for you, because you was the leading scorer, not just on your team, but I think you was leading the state or whatever it was for a while. How do you teach the kids today? Because like he said earlier, they said that he can call him coach as well. So obviously letting y'all know he's coaching these days. How would you teach what you knew to a new group of kids now, or to the youth now? Because like you said, it's different. We don't go into the gyms and they packed. Sometimes some of these kids not even playing in the summer. You know what I'm saying? How would you switch and turn on these kids' ambition in life when now you have added more video games? You got other distractions. Man, back then we didn't have those distractions.
Right.
We was hooping. We would be
played in the neighborhood.
Yeah, all day.
I mean, we had Sega and stuff like that.
So how would you turn that into? How would you turn what you know, and how do you, as a coach, how would you motivate the next?
Well, just in case somebody from Fort Worth, I ain't leading no state now. I led the area a couple times.
I think you was leading the.
Well, if I led in the state, I don't know what they were doing in Houston and San Antonio and all that. But not the area for sure. But I mean, the best motivation comes from support, in my opinion. And I think the motivation we had growing up was that those stands were packed, right? You did want to. When we was growing up, it was all about Fort Worth.
Yes.
We knew it was multiple teams, different sides of town. I want to be the best in my city. And then obviously along came BCI, AAU, and all that stuff, and then it gradually got bigger. But nowadays, I mean, it's so much distraction. And who knows? I don't know if we would have grown up in this area. I don't know what would have happened. I do know that we had fun, and I had fun competing. And that's why when we were coming up, when you played a certain team, you had a good 5, 6, 7 players. It was like, ooh, okay, we got to watch.
Deal with
now,
that.
You got to deal with them now, unless y'all out there recruiting, coaches.
They
get to that in a second. Unless y'all out there recruiting, yeah, because we got it how we live. Whoever's on your side, that's who you had.
Yep.
For the most part, there was still some others, whatever. But the point was is nowadays, you see your good 1 or 2, maybe 3 if you lucky. But I just tell the kids, hey, number one, Work on your game. Don't come in here doing stuff that you saw Steph Curry do last night on TV. If there's a certain move, the Euro step is big. Back when I wanted to perfect was the fadeaway, and my coach said, "Hey, if you're gonna shoot that, I better see you working on it in practice, right?" So that's basically, come in with the mindset, do what you're supposed to do what you coach to do, and if you have the athletic ability, the natural athletic ability, my goal as a coach is to put the fundamentals with the athletic ability and watch and see what goes. But some of the kids you can't stop from the cell phones and the social media. But we didn't have all that, so they have more distractions.
Man, you said a while ago that you feel like Arlington Heights was probably the best decision you made because of the structure, right? Mm-hmm. Man, I remember we was at a tournament, and it might have been AAU, but either you was playing or you was playing next. But I was in the bleachers like right next to you, bro. And I think you either told me this or I told you, but TCU was right there. All the scouts was in the building. And they had your name on the list, but they also had like Jason Horton and a couple other guys' name on the list. And one of the knocks, I remember this, is they said you played for Arlington Heights, so you got to do and try to score as much as you wanted to. And then they made it as a knock against you on one of the reasons that they was going to probably recruit somebody else ahead of you. They didn't know what you would do. That's why they was coming to the AAU, see what he would do on a different team with more talent and more players. Like, so in that aspect, do you feel like from a college standpoint that going to Arlington Heights held you back?
Nope. It's because here's the thing. I don't care, and I deal with this nowadays even as a coach. One thing I don't agree with, if you can play, they can find you. That's bull. That's not the truth. Because if you see Ja Morant, right, he could play, but because he didn't have the numbers, or he didn't go to a certain school. See, when I came up, I would play the North Crowley. I remember played against Keith Langford, and it was my sophomore year. Keith was a senior. We played him in the Whataburger tournament. I still tell this story because a buddy of mine was messing with me. Had Clarence and another cat that was going to toe their butt up. I'm a sophomore. I gave him like 28. Now at halftime, Keith had like 9, and I'm cocky. I'm like, man, I'm a sophomore. I got 14 at half. He going to Kansas?
Yeah.
I'm going to Duke when I get out of here. And we was up. I maybe 6-7 points. Boy, after that game, we ended up losing by like 15. Keith had like 34. I said, oh, that's why he's going to Kansas. Because it's like he woke up, right?
Right.
But at the same time, I don't care where you go to school. The misconception is that because this kid didn't come, or a kid, not just me, didn't come from a basketball powerhouse, I don't know how they'll do when it comes to the summer. In my summer teams, we hella success. My junior year, we won the Adidas big time tournament. Played for Team Stop 6. We won that tournament, and here again, my whole thing was, I don't care that you went to North Crowley, Dunbar, Wyatt, Poly. If I go out there and play Dunbar and I've given Dunbar 34 points, what is that? What you saying? Mind you, it's efficiency, right?
Right.
So you get a lot of, and we talked about this one time with, and shout out to Hackett. That's we good friends. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know him. We know each other, and when we see each other, it's cool. It's all love. But we're always comparing this, and I've told him before, he could average 30, I could average 30, but you shooting 40 times.
Right.
I'm shooting 20 times.
Right.
But that was the offense he was in.
Right.
That was why my dad didn't want me going to Southwest, because I watched the Rodney Lees, shout out Rodney, Giovanni. I grew up watching these guys and loved watching them, but it was about efficiency. And I got the stats to prove it, but the thing was, okay, the team had more success, right? So while those teams are going on to play in the playoffs, I'm at home because we made the 5th or 6th place.
Right.
Because remember, back it used to be just 3 teams.
Yeah.
Grew up watching little homie. I know Tony. I know he was talking about when he came up, but I know Tony. But the point is that to me was a ball dropped on the coaches. Because just because your team went to the playoffs don't make you a good player.
Right.
There are certain players that came from schools that never made the playoffs or barely made the playoffs that were way better than these players who were on the team.
Facts.
That consistently made it. It's just you had a better program, you had more students, you had more athletic or basketball players at your school. But that don't mean if I put you against this guy over here, you're the superior.
So you end up going to college What college you end up going to?
I ended up going to Odessa College, and this is where it gets funny about politics. I was headed to Baylor. I was headed to Baylor, verbally committed. But you look at it now. When I came out of, I want to say I was averaging maybe close to 30 a game, 1080 SAT score. Right, you didn't have to worry about grades.
Right.
Stats were there. 6'6" guard. But I only had a few mid to low. Say TCU.
I was just gonna say, would you have preferred TCU?
No. Well, it would have been nice, but I'm trying to see how I can put this in, because I'm trying to speak from an 18-year-old instead of a 37-year-old.
Right.
It would have been dope to stay home and play for TCU.
Right.
And I think at the time, or I remember at the time, my coach telling them I was 17. So it's like, he can redshirt, he can do. But when they decided to go another route,
you wasn't finna red shirt nothing. I don't see no situation.
At that point, but it would have made sense because of my age, right? And I would at least, but to sit there with everything I had and the people who were being recruited, I'm like, dang, I don't get. But I later found out, I don't know if this had anything to do with TCU, because Neil Doherty is a friend of mine, junior, who played at TCU. He told me his dad, RP Coach Doherty, he told me his dad was looking to come in and grab me. And crazy part, when they moved to Fort Worth and Coach Doherty got the job, Neil told me he was coming to Heights. And somebody around the area said
something.
Do not send him to Heights, send him to North Crowley, because North Crowley is more of a basketball school. Because, we both on Hewlett. We just north, they're South Hewlett. And he told me, he said, man, I was going to Heights. But somebody got in his dad's ear or his parents and said, hey, don't send him there, send him to North Crowley, because Heights ain't a basketball school. So it's a lot of stuff that goes on.
That is some politics, but that's almost like a Duncanville or what's that? A South Lake. Right. Like, you are gonna probably preference your kid to go to a South Lake over Arlington Heights. You know what I'm saying?
No, for sure. But from a player standpoint, other than my team that I was with when I was 10, shout out to Citywide All Stars, I always wanted to play the best. I didn't.
Heights.
Who you said? What you said?
You know what it is, Worth Heights Soldiers, man.
He can't even say that without laughing. That's a whole other subject when we ran the city. But for the most part, as I got older, man, I didn't really care. I wanted to go against the competitions, and because just for that factor and what we were talking about earlier. The misnomer is he get 100 shots over at Heights. No, that's a lie. I didn't, because it would have showed up. But yeah, I can see from a parent standpoint, hey,
But I will say, G, I think you dropped 50. I think you dropped 50 one game, but I messed with you right after that because I think you had put up. I think it took you 40 shots. But you had a bunch of free throws, but I think it took you.
It was, first of all,
it was like 38 shots.
It was 49.
Oh, that's what it was.
It was 49.
That's what it was.
And I do remember, it wasn't no 40 shots. It was like maybe 30, 28. But I went 19 for 20. And the only reason I remember this now is because my little brother saw my article about a couple of weeks ago and was going over it. And I went 19 for 20 from the free throw line.
That's what it was.
That's a big thing nowadays, too. I tell my players is that, we always say free throws, they're free. Yeah. So what I was good at making you foul me because I knew your coach didn't teach you to be fundamental like my coach did. So when I go to the hole on a guy that's 6'7", 6'8", 6'6", whatever, he jumped dumb or whatever, you want to jump and jump out. You know what my coach told me?
What did he say?
Give him a pump fake. Watch him jump. And as soon as you jump, I'm going straight through your armpit, foul. Yeah, let me get to the line. I ain't got time. Even though I could jump. I wouldn't go up and tap the top of the backboard, but I had to jump in the building. But it's like, why would I waste all my energy? I know you not fundamental. I know if I give you this pump fake, you going to jump. And then when I jump into you and get this foul, I'm going to go knock down my free throws. Now, the next time I come to the lane and give you that pump fake, either you not going to jump or I'm going to go up with the shot because you anticipating the pump fake.
Right.
So, and that's what I've been able to teach even now growing up is that when you get a lot of teams that do this, it's athlete versus athlete. Who gonna out-athlete each other? And even we go back to the Dunbar. See, that's why Dunbar the year after they won state, they got beat by Weatherford or Azle.
Yeah.
You know,
Hazel,
you
I
get
think, beat
yeah
them.
Hazel in the playoffs. When you get certain teams, every time we would beat, you know, we beat Poly one year. We stuck 2 years. We almost beat Dunbar. Well, we shouldn't even been in games with certain teams. Southwest, because we were taught the fundamentals of the game. If we would have tried to do this with y'all, oh, we'd have got blown out every time.
You know what's crazy? I go to some of them games now, and they run full court press the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you just said, there's no fundamentals. Like some of the coaches, they don't even know how to beat the full court. And I'm like, y'all are losing by 30, and y'all probably would have won this game if you just knew how to beat the full court press. Right. So what do you think it takes today to become a legit coach, outside of just, oh, I'm a teacher and I'm a coach, but actually put in the work? Do you think there's a lot of good coaches out here today that's teaching these kids to better skill sets?
No. I mean, it's the good coach is definitely development. A lot of these coaches, that's why, you know, I will second a lot of people saying they hate AAU, because now it's all about money. A lot of these coaches, they're not really coaching. They just putting a lot of talent together. Now, they may draw up a play here and there, but y'all and I've been to AAU, my brother plays it now, and I go, and I'm looking at it like, dang, that kid is skillful, but he coming down doing dumb stuff. Why didn't you jump stop? Why didn't you throw the two-handed pass?
I don't even remember last time I seen the jump stop.
And some of them, now if you can do it, that's fine. But I say specifically coaches, that's why we get into it now with recruiting. I don't respect no coach that goes out and actively recruit somebody from another area. Now, you know, we got programs of choice now and all that. So if you get a kid from across the city, they want to do aviation, they want to do medical, car shop, whatever, and your school has that, it is what it is. But you have certain coaches literally out here going to different parts of the area, building AAU teams, getting somebody to run the AAU and say, oh, we're going to try and recruit, get that kid out there from Waco, see if he'll come to Fort Worth, get that kid to see if they're – see, to me, you're not a coach.
Now, you might take away somebody's coaching attributes that way, but, man, we won state. And dude, the development in Everman since then was crazy. So if I go to Waco and get that,
y'all had a lot of talent over there too, legitimate. And they was y'all just so y'all was beating. I mean, we played y'all. Y'all was beating 4A school. Y'all just had the talent.
But from a coaching standpoint, if I can bring kids out of area and create this AAU team, right? Mm-hmm. Even if you say, man, you had more talent than you had coaching ability, me winning made me be able to have money pumped into this school. Now it's a better school for more people to come. Is that worth it?
Well, here's the deal. UIL says that's a red flag.
Right, okay.
And I think what has transpired even last year with Duncanville, and I said I was glad they got caught. Girls, boy. Now, I wasn't glad from the standpoint of, because I got friends of mine, partners of mine that are on the staff, and I know if he see that, he gonna be like, yeah, we talked about it, because he called me, you know, I gave my opinion online,
right.
And we talked, but at the end of the day, you know, talking about Anthony Black, like, let's be real, he was already a top player in the nation out of Capel. The rhetoric or the story is he wanted to go stay with his mom because his dad, whatever. I don't know, I ain't in that, but I'm reading what I know in the articles. He wanted to go stay with his mom, and she was dating the coach, whatever. But I bet if his mama lived in Diamond Hill, he wouldn't have went over there.
Oh, no.
I bet if his mama lived in Northside, he wouldn't have went over there. I bet if his mama lived in Carter Riverside, he wouldn't have went over there. I bet if his mama lived over by Trimble Tech, which is an open school, but still. So my thing is, you can create the narrative, whatever you want to do at your school, in order not to be flagged. But don't play me. I'm not the dumb.
Right.
So you go and do something like that, and I hope from that it just woke people up to say, okay, they're gonna look. They just had a kid transfer last year from El Paso. I can't even think of the kid name. If you know, you know. He came from El Paso, top player in El Paso, signed to go somewhere. He transferred because he played summer ball with one of the Duncanville. He went to Duncanville, and I didn't do much. But the point is, stuff like that, I can't. So my question is, are you a coach or are you a recruiter?
Was that the kind of same thing that you would say like an Angel Reese is doing though?
That's college. See, that's the NIL. That's a whole. That's different. And I personally, they gonna have to figure out something with that, because now it's becoming like, oh, I can play here, then I can transfer, then I can transfer.
Because now they just got another star to come over to LSU.
Yeah, see, that to me is the NIL was so new, and I think when you bring something in new, you don't know how it may transpire or may even be abused. And I think now it's going so crazy. Now they finna say, okay, hold on, we put it out there, we gave it. Now let's see what we have to bring in to make it at least formidable. Because that doesn't make. Now the only people that have leeway with that are private schools. So if you're a private schools have always been able to go out and recruit, but they can do that because it's a private school. I'm talking about if you are in UIL and you are out here actively recruiting kids from other areas, parts of the state, hell, even bringing in kids from out of state. That shows me to a certain extent, you as a coach, you don't believe in your coaching ability, personally.
Man, we gotta get back to competition, y'all. We gotta get back to how it was. Everybody, ever since LeBron James started joining teams, everybody wanted to join teams.
Don't put that on Bron. Don't put that on Bron. Yeah, I know. Don't put that on Bron.
Man, say back in the day, we was all about, like you just said, I honestly wanted the weakest team, and I wanted to go play against the stacked team. Mm-hmm. You put Michael Ben and Vic and all them on one team. I used to want to come in and have to be the unit that they had to play against, because I'm finna try to kill y'all and see what happens. But let me ask you this, because we gotta hurry up. Let me out of all your things, from basketball to coaching to teaching, the first question I want to ask: what has been the most impactful on you, as far as like what's gave you the most satisfaction?
Just working with kids, man. Working with kids. I from a teaching standpoint, I didn't know I would ever be a teacher. I became a coach first.
Right.
In private school, I was able to coach while I was working, and then I caught the bug. And a buddy of mine, shout out to Coach Dunbar, he gave me a chance at Western Hills years ago. But just you're not gonna reach every kid, every student, but just let them know, hey, you're a student athlete. You're not an athletic student, so you definitely grades are first, behavior, how to carry yourself, and then on the court, just giving them the guidance and the development for them to excel to the best of their ability, because everybody can't do everything. So anytime that just finished my 12th year of coaching, anytime I can help a kid understand things that they may not even be getting at home, because you get a lot of kids that come in, great kids, they just don't have at home. It's just doesn't. So I tell you to pick your pants up at school, you do it,
right.
But it's
home,
not gonna last long if every time you go home you're not being told to do that. If I'm saying, hey, say yes, don't hit me with the yeah. You may tell your mama, your daddy, your uncle, your granny yeah, but you ain't finna tell me yeah. It's a sign of respect. And I may tell them back. I have, when I was in middle school, female students of mine, raise their hand. Hey, Coach Ford, yes ma'am, what you need? So me saying yes ma'am is just a sign of respect. Yeah. It's not superior. You're not superior to me, etc. It's just having good, coming with good dialogue, and representing yourself like you got some sense.
I really wish you would have been able to get on. I remember when you first was finna start teaching, and you was asking my mom and them about it. But it was like, I remember first thing she always tells me is, the women teachers get ran over so much. I wish I had more male teachers. We wish we had more male teachers in the program, because these kids these days, they don't really listen to nothing. But then that male figure automatically makes you kind of pause, right, any kind of rebellion.
Right.
Do you feel like if we put more males, more black men, just in general, just more males in these schools, how much of a difference do you think it would make, not just on the youth, but in school in general?
Well, I mean, it'll be a huge impact, because everything starts at home. I can tell throughout the years, I can tell who has a home structure and who doesn't. And it's not everybody. You have some people who have a great, like even over here, I remember hearing a kid, I grew up southwest side until second grade, but I mean, I always frequent this area, and it's crazy, the houses and stuff that are over here now. I heard one kid at the gas station one day, while I'm pumping gas, he on the other side, we on Bryant, on Hewlin and Oakmont over by the old Luby's, Walmart. He on the phone. Yeah, I just pulled. I'm getting some gas right now. I'm in the hood right now. I'm like, what hood?
What?
Like, you got Granite County in your house over there. What are you talking about, hood? Like, so it's one of them things where, it starts at home to let these kids know, like, I have kids that get dropped off at school, bro, they ain't got a backpack. If I was a principal at a school, especially school year's about to start back up, We would all go through the same interest, the main interest. And if you don't have a backpack, parents take them back home.
Yeah, nah, that makes sense.
They show up to school with no backpack. They show up to school with no pencil, paper, and it's like,
They think
parents,
it's a
what are
daycare.
you all doing?
A daycare.
To at least make it look like they come. And that's why I tell my students, you don't have a backpack. Just come like you looking to get an education. We can iron out everything else later. But the black male educator is prevalent because still today in society, sometimes the black male is absent from the household. Now, I know a lot of, even if the dad is gone, they have uncles, right? They have big cousins that teach them. And I've met these guys and they're, yeah, man, I'm on the straight. But it has been, at least I can speak for myself, I've been that influential black educator to where single mothers, certain kids from certain areas, even sometimes dads or uncles, hey man, coach, he really listens to you. Can you stay on?
Right, I hear that all the time.
I don't mind. I think that's my duty. But here again, if I can help 1 out of 10, I'm good. And I tell a lot of my students, I'm like, yo, man, when you get it, you're going to be all right. Because when you get it, what you mean by that, coach? When you understand this, when you get it, because we was all kids, I didn't get in trouble because of I got in trouble because I was a class clown.
Right.
And it was the same thing. When you learn how to use your voice a certain way and not use it this way, you're going to be all right. That's what one of my teachers told me. My dad used to tell me. My mom used to tell me. So it's the same thing. And once these kids understand that, but it starts at home, man. I still don't understand. We need to talk about. I still don't understand parents why y'all letting y'all kids come out in sweatsuits in 95-degree weather.
Man,
that's a whole nother
hoodies,
conversation.
black hoodies.
Boy, a dude showed up one day, 98 degrees outside. He had his brother Letterman jacket on. I said, "You alive?"
Oh man.
And I had a Letterman jacket since I was a freshman. I know how hot them. I know you lying.
You barely wear them when it's cold outside.
But when I ask parents that, I'm like, why do y'all? Well, that's them. That's they style. No. You are the parent. Boy, if I would have came downstairs and it's finna be 95 degrees with some sweats and a hoodie on or a bubble jacket, and my mom and daddy would have said, boy, if you don't take your butt back up them stairs, go back to your room and put on a t-shirt and some short, it's like now okay, go ahead. See, they conform and see that's a whole nother conversation. It's certain stuff I get, but then there's certain stuff you just gotta bro. We not doing that. Not doing that.
So let me ask you this is my last two questions. The first one I'm gonna ask is, what do you think? Because you said earlier how mom and dad was, and I know Karen passed when you was 14. What do you think she'd be the most proud of you for? If watching over, the first thing she would name, I'm proud of you the most for doing this. And the last one to answer is, if you could go back to 15-year-old. What would be the advice you gave yourself, knowing everything you know now?
Shoot. I think she'd be most proud of just me, just the success that I've had, whether it be from athletics, whether it be from, building and owning being a homeowner at 24, holding down a household, being able to travel, she would just be proud as a whole. Now, granted, here again, because she was a teacher, I think that would probably be like, oh, he's a teacher. I never thought about being a teacher until I caught the coaching bug. But I think about that often, that, anytime I make a certain move, anytime that, whether I was graduations, being out on vacation.
Just getting accepted into college.
Yeah, just getting accepted into college, playing college ball. Like, of course, we all had an aspiration. Oh, I'm going to go to the league. And then at the end of the day, I just wanted – I was okay with people paying money to watch me play. And my coach, he said that, I remember my freshman summer, he's like, man, people pay to come see you play, which is the truth. They're not paying NBA. But if they pay $2, $3, that's their money. They come to watch you play.
Facts.
And whether it was college, semi-pro, et cetera, my whole goal was I'm just proud and I'm okay with, however, whenever I leave this game and stop playing, except when people came and saw me play, they had to pay. And I was cool with that. Now, when I was 15-year-old me to now, I don't think I would want to know the knowledge I know now, because I was already outspoken. I was already outspoken. And I don't know what I would be more mindful of. I would be more mindful of the trash talking I did, maybe to coaches. And that would be more. See, I talk trash in summer leagues. I didn't talk trash during the league, during the season. But later on, I came to know from a reliable source, and it was the truth, that a coach who we played each year, who was well connected with college coaches, went and told a college coach who was at a D1 school here in Texas, that kid has an attitude. Yeah, we play him every year. He has an attitude. But how can you first of all, as a college coach, how do you go to another coach that ain't never coached me? He's never been with me in practice. He never ran drills with me. He's never been with me and my teammates in an intimate setting in a gym. How do you take the word of a coach that has not coached me? If I came to you and said, hey, DB, tell me about Tony, but you not Tony's coach, why would I? I mean,
but I can see where the influence would come in at. Because if I came to you and said, gee, man, this kid over here, bro, he got an attitude problem. Right. You going because of our relationship, it's gonna make you look at this kid funny.
Well, that could be true, but at the same time, if the kid is a talent, not a head case, as far as grades, this is that, I'm gonna call this coach and say, okay, I heard this, but at the same time, be like, yeah, bro, but you didn't coach him. Let me call his coach.
That is true. That is true.
So there have been times I've had coaches come to me about other players when we had game. Hey man, what you know about it? I don't know nothing. I really don't. I mean, I know he might be out there, but I don't know him I don't know him intimately as player coach. All I see is what I see on the court. And here again, now I talk trash on the court because that's what got me going.
Right.
But in the summer leagues, summer leagues used to go down. Sometimes it's a lot. We used to have more fun in summer leagues.
Man, to me, man, that's just part of the game right there. Right. Like, everybody that know me know I talk noise. It's just, it is what it is. That's part of my fire. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes no telling what you use to motivate you. I didn't see Curry talk noise to a coach. Right. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see some of the greatest people talk noise. But like you said, sometimes it can backfire, just being cautious. But so you were saying, telling 15-year-old you, your biggest thing you would say to yourself is, it would be something.
Is be more calculated with your words.
Okay.
Because I definitely, I would speak my mind, and I was taught to speak my mind. I just think, because you're so young, you don't know how to express it to where it doesn't seem like you trying to be argumentative.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for example, real quick, my little brother had an issue a couple years ago in middle school where he didn't make the 18, which he should have. I don't know but he come back home on the C team. And he said he didn't understand why. So I told him, me at that age, I'm like, man, what you doing? I'm way better than. But what I told him that I'm old, I said, hey, man, just go to that coach and just, because being a coach, just say, hey, coach, help me understand how I didn't make the A squad. I said, that's all you have to tell him. Say, help me understand. Because you don't want to tell him he's wrong.
Yeah, because
that's going to start something. See, me, I would have been like, coach, what you do? You wrong. Yeah. But if you say, hey, help me understand. And at that point, the coach basically gave him another chance. He said, you really think? He said, coach, I believe I should be. Gave him another tryout. He ended up starting on the A team. Wow. Now, here again, like I told him, I don't know if you went in there playing around or what. You shouldn't even been in that position. But I would have been more calculated with my responses to certain, whether positive or negative, it doesn't matter, as opposed to just acting off of emotion all the time.
Man, I think it's so much you can just take from just what he just got through saying when he said his brother made the C team and he took a different approach and just went to go talk to the coach, and next thing you know, he was starting on the A team. Like, that's a big jump. That's a huge jump. So that's a never give up. That's a maturity thing that luckily he came to you about, because like you said, he could have came out and just been immature about the situation. Some kids don't get what they want and want to transfer immediately. So, man, I think that's a real big thing, and it's a lot of message just in that little message. But I'm going to get you out of here, man. I really, really appreciate you coming through, showing up, get on the podcast, man. Is there anything else you got going on that you want to tell them about?
No, man. I mean, we gearing up, figure out where I'll be, but I'm just excited to watch like I said, my brother now, he'll be a sophomore. He'll be on the varsity team at his high school. Just excited to watch him grow and continue to watch him. And I say this for up and coming coaches. Last thing I'll say for up-and-coming coaches, this is what I've learned. One thing I hate about certain coaches is I hate coaches that have a 7-8 man rotation. I hate that. I've always hated, you have 12 to 14 players on the bench, but you only play 8 of them. To me, I've never understood that, because people ask me, they're like, man, I don't know if I could be a coach, and because parents, I'll be honest, bro, I've never had an issue with parents. And that's not because of, I don't think just me and my basketball, what I would say expertise. I mean, I obviously there's room for me to grow. But I just believe if I have 13, 14 players on my team,
it's my job to figure out.
There's something.
Yes.
Don't get it twisted. You're going to have your horses, right? But if I'm playing, if I have 8, I'm like, ooh, these 8, they going to take me. But I got 4 or 5 more on the bench. Okay, what can you all do that I can get you on the court for maybe 2 or 3 minutes? It may just be that. I've had students come from football, or players come from football. You're not really a basketball player, but you fast. Okay, check this out. For this 2 minutes you finna get in, see that point guard? You gonna have him full court, and every time he turn his back, he better see you right there. You get you get a steal. I teach you how to make a layup and all that stuff. Now, once he get name shooting 3, hold on, partner. Yeah, come on, yeah,
come on,
your time up. You may have that big kid that's not really a basketball player, not really athletic, but you big. Hey man, I'm gonna teach you how to box out. And you a big body, so when they put somebody slow, hey man, this your 2, go in there, rebounds, find the guard. So I've just always seen, and I've heard, parents have the most, my kid isn't playing, And as a coach, I always feel that, how can I get, whether it's 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes? I found out that when you find a role, especially you can hide a kid. If I got one kid, but I put them around 4 that can go, I can hide you enough for a certain period of time till the other coach figure out, oh, that's the weak link, right? So I would say that to up-and-coming coaches, find a way to get everybody involved. Not equal time, but find a way to get everybody. That will help reduce tension from parents. And
not just that, man. I remember that'll help. That by itself helps out the school district, because, man, one thing I remember, I tell B-Wood this all the time. B-Wood was a sharpshooter, right? But Coach Henderson, man, B-Wood doesn't even want to do nothing else.
B-Wood, we know.
So don't listen to him. But, man, this dude, I swear, every time I played, when we was playing together, I would look for him, because I know he would be spotted up somewhere. And when he got cut, man, they was hot. It was hot. And I used to tell the coach, Coach Henderson at the time, I said, how can you not find a spot for a spot up shooter? Mm-hmm. It's just like you said, even if you got to do it for 2, okay, we need to come back, and you hide him somewhere, you hide him, or he's getting little spot up threes that nobody's paying attention to. So that tells me more about you as a coach,
right,
than it tells me about him as a player.
And that goes back to what I was saying. Do you have some coaches, especially in the AAU circuit, but even in schools, they want the athletes. They want the ones that can just go ahead and go. Hey, let me drop the play, go ahead and go. As opposed to, like you said, this guy might not be the fastest, right, or the quickest, but god dang, he can. If you have a certain offense implemented, he can stand in the corner, stand on the ring, whatever, and get shots off around, right, the athletes. Right. He can be useful.
They know how to build teams.
So it is what it is, but we'll see what happens in the future.
Man, speaking of, man, we're going to be getting to y'all in the future, man. We're in this right now. This episode, I believe, 5. I got episode 6 coming right up to you, man. Once again, I appreciate you coming through, G.
Yes, sir.
We'll be getting with y'all next time, man. See y'all next time.